Okay, I say it has hit 11. Sorry, actually 10. Normally our slots are at 11, so I'm kind of used to saying that. But welcome everyone to the part 4 of the Civil Collaboration series, where we're going to be looking at Autodesk Advance Steel, Revit, and Plant 3D. So again, we always have new users joining the series at different segments. So this is just a snapshot of more or less what was covered and how we have tackled it going further. So of course, I am your host. My name is Shuaib Yunus. I'm the BIM Technical Specialist for Civil Infrastructure and Mining here in Baker Baynes, South Africa. And I do a lot of the civil infrastructure webinars. So again, how this came into play is by dealing with a lot of consultants, engineering professionals, draftsmen. The key problem that I constantly encountered or heard from people was the aspect of collaboration. So I thought, hey, let's put together a nice series that will actually look at talking between different types of software in the Autodesk AEC collection and also the product design and manufacturing. So of course, this is a 5-part webinar series where we're going to be looking at collaboration across different disciplines. We have been building on different parts of the model as we go along. And of course, this series is primarily focused on collaboration and not modeling. If you're interested in the modeling part of it, of course, you can have a look at our Baker Baynes YouTube channel. I have done quite a bit of modeling tutorials and stuff like that that you can actually go and look at. There's also some brilliant resources on the nets, so you can definitely have a look at the Autodesk channels, as well as the help files that are actually built into all of these softwares that you are using. So of course, part 4 today, we're looking at Advanced Steel, Revit, and Plant 3D. It's quite a combo, and it's a very common combo used across industries. If you're looking at the extreme right, the software used and touched on in this series, we've practically covered all of them, all right, with the addition of Advanced Steel today. But we're also adding to that stack where we're going to be talking about AutoCAD, Plant 3D. Maybe that list will get longer for part 5, the conclusion of the series. You'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so now that you have an idea of more or less what this series is about, this is the agenda for today. Of course, we always give a quick intro of who we are and what we do. And then after, we're going to jump in directly into the topic at hand, and then we're going to wrap it up and let you get on with your day. So of course, Baker Baynes, this is us at a snapshot. We specialize currently in 4 key segments: survey and design, design software consultancy, business process improvement consulting, as well as blended learning. So we do a lot of laser scanning. We don't only sell the Autodesk software, we are a gold partner, which is a great rank to have, but we also specialize in the implementation, the training, the consulting of those tools. A cool takeaway from this slide is actually we are an Autodesk service provider select, meaning that we have the right professionals and certified professional capabilities to actually help you to do your projects. And we are also listed on the Autodesk Services Marketplace as a provider. In terms of the technologies that we back and we support, of course, Autodesk, everyone knows them, starting off with the famous AutoCAD, but it has grown, especially if you're watching Autodesk University this year. The technologies that are available are amazing. So the key products that we normally focus on in industry or are known as the hero products are Revit, Revit, Civil 3D, Inventor, and of course AutoCAD. But yeah, they have done a tremendous amount of development on their side. Also with the cloud collaboration with BIM 360, Autodesk Forge, those type of things. If you haven't checked out Autodesk University yet, please have a look. There's a ton to learn there as well. In terms of the laser scanning part of things, we've got Leica and Topcon. Leica, the machine that you're currently seeing, is the BLK 360, predominantly used for interiors and in the architectural space. Very nifty machine. It fits in the palm of your hand, and it makes scanning and as-built capture very, very easy. If you're looking for more rugged applications, we also partner with Topcon. So if you're on the construction and mining sites, you will look at something called the GLS 2000. The one you're seeing in the image is the GTL 1000, which has a really, really accurate range. In terms of far scanning ranges, we've got the GLS 2000 that goes up to 500 meters. If you're looking at the top range, the entry level is about at 120 meters, and the medium range is at 350. So that's a pretty impressive range. If you are a civil professional and you are dealing with civils as well as pipe networks, IDAS is the game changer, especially using Civil 3D. It automates a lot of your pipe tasks. It makes it much more simplified, and it allows you to do design in the Civil 3D interface as well as analysis. So it's a really, really amazing product that fits in perfectly with Civil 3D's capabilities, and it also has a lot of South African content that you can leverage off. And last but not least, it's CAD learning. CAD learning is the go-to tool for any designer that wants to learn on the go, as well as a person that wants to upskill themselves in industry. It has over 50 plus Autodesk applications that are listed on there with pre-recorded videos, step-by-step tutorials, as well as exercise files that you could actually practice with on what you're seeing in the video. So definitely the correct blend of technology that we offer. In terms of the segments, we've got build, so anything going towards the sky. Vertical construction is what it's called nowadays. So architectural and structural buildings, we support that. Civil infrastructure and mining is the space that I play in predominantly, where we're looking at anything horizontal, so roads, utilities, services, highways, bridges, and of course, excavation, earthworks, scanning, all of that falls under mining. And of course, manufacturing, engineering, energy, process plant. We've also got professionals in those fields, and we host webinars in those fields. So really, really cool, and a very widespread of industry. And of course, we support this by using our IADOP methodology, which assesses your current situation, educates you to fish for yourself, if I could call it that, as well as consult with you if it's above your depth. And we use this methodology to facilitate positive change management in your processes, in your company, as well as in your design. Okay, so now that you know more or less about us and what we do, let's jump into the topic at hand, being the part 4 of the Civil Collaboration series. So let's have a look at more or less the project scenario. So we started off with a site that looked like this in Hartbeespoort Dam, that's in Gauteng, and we kind of built that site up going along. We've done roads, we've done some grading, we've done vehicle checks in terms of vehicle tracking. We've done some GIS stuff where we automated the line export so you can get your road marking. All of those are going to be brought together. Of course, you're seeing snippets of each part, but you're not seeing the final model. So I really look forward to seeing you all in part 5, where we're going to bring this all together and we're going to see what we have done. Okay, so let's jump into the first aspect that I get asked a lot between Advanced Steel and Revit, which is how do you access and apply South African steel section libraries? So let's start off by looking at Revit. Okay, so I am in Revit in the Structures tab, and I'm just going to drop a quick beam here. Okay, if you're seeing that green, orange, and red, that is the analytical view. You could always switch it off, okay? But let's say we're drawing a section. Now, if I click on this section and I go to the type selector or the properties, you can see that these are the families that are currently loaded into my drawing. Now, that is actually a South African section because I've got mine set up, but I'm going to show you how you can load it. So you can see all of the properties come through as you would expect in the metric unit of measure. And if I go to load, you can see it's going to the South African specific file path. So program data, Autodesk, whichever Revit version you're using, South Africa, Steel, SA specific. Okay, if you don't know where it is, you can always check it out on the Autodesk Knowledge Network or drop me a LinkedIn message. You can see also we've got different countries. We normally use the UK quite a bit. It's very similar to the South African steel sections. And this is where we can go and load it. So for a beam, for example, I can load an IPE and I can say open. In this case, it's already loaded, but now this is where you know how to access it. Once those families are loaded into your template, you don't have to go and keep changing it over and over. All right. So that's how you would find it in Revit. Now let's look at Advanced Steel. Advanced Steel is configured slightly differently. So I'm going to drop in a longer beam this time. So let's just drop in something like an I section. I'm just going to pan to the right a little bit just to get the preview of the section. Let's go a bit more. Here we go. And as you can see, here's the properties. Now that is not South African, but if I go to all and I go to SA, here we have all of our South African steel sections, your universal beams, columns, your IPE sections, and so on. So I can change this depending on what size I want, which is great. I mean, now it's actually using the South African steel section that I want to use. We're using a grade of 355 SJR, which is fine. And of course, you've got all of the properties that are associated to your section that comes through, because this plays a key part for the fabrication. Now, Advanced Steel is built for steel fabrication. So if you are doing a design in Revit, bring it in here. But as you can see, the properties are still there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to show you how to set it off by default. So if I go to the management tools, and let me close this window, we will come to the home menu, and we can actually then go to the defaults. Now, if we go to the default section, you can see there is a heading called default sections, literally, and we can actually select general. Now you can actually configure this. It might take a little of time, but once you do it once, it's all set up. We can actually set the default section that you want to use when you click the options. So as you can see, that HEA section was set by default. I'm going to change it to an IPE, and I can also change the default size. So maybe you're using quite a bit the 160 section, all right? So you can actually set that up, and then if you have a 200 section or something like that, you could actually load it. So it saves you time by, instead of clicking each time and changing your section once it's drawn, you can actually set the default, load the setting into Advanced Steel, and we will be good to go. So I'm just doing it for the I sections. You would need to do it for the rest of the channels and stuff that you would normally use. And let's go and fire up the beam again. I'll do a slightly smaller one. And here we are. It has been set up by default to the South African IPE section. So that will save you a lot of time in the long run. Okay, so now we're going to get to the main section, which gets a lot of people confused, which is collaborating successfully between Advanced Steel and Revit. Now, people are collaborating, but it's actually using what I call the long method, or the long way around. This is going to actually help you to do it much more quicker. So let's have a look. So the first step is to reconfigure the Advanced Steel database to automap objects from Revit to Advanced Steel. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's say you do a steel portal or you do some steel structure in Revit, which works great. It works really good. But when you take that structure and you want to do the connection design in Advanced Steel, because it's much more faster and it's automated, and you can actually get your fabrication data and drawings automated for you. You can't do that in Revit. You will need to import that from Revit to Advanced Steel. Now, what happens is if your objects are not automapped, you will have to go and click on each section manually and change it to the ones that you want it to match, because the mapping is not set up correctly. Now, how the mapping works, I know this is a bit complicated today for Friday, but I will try and explain it as easy as I can. The Advanced Steel works with a database. Now, that database, because our sections are very similar to the UK steel profiles, it uses a numbering system. So if, for example, a UK section, if we're going to do an IPE or an I section, is in the database table labeled or numbered at item 160. And that I section for the South African one is numbered at, let's say, 200. The database will read the UK section because the number of 160 comes before the South African steel sections. So what we need to do is to bump up that UK number to quite a high number so that when it reads the database, it will jump directly to our South African steel section number. So let's have a look at how this is done. If you have any questions, you can shoot them in the chat box. I will attend to them at the end. But if we go to the management tools and we go to the table editor, we will then open up the Advanced Steel database. So there's the file path. It is under Advanced Steel 2021, International Steel, and then you go to data. In data, these are the MDF files. And what we're looking at is the Astro Profiles MDF. So once we open it and we click that drop down arrow, there are all of the sections that we have. I am interested in the Revit translation, if I could call it. So here we are, we've got Revit Advanced Steel Profile Conversion. I can just drag these columns a little bit so we can see what we're dealing with. And you see it's got a key number. So that's what I was talking about. So it'll start and it'll continue and it'll progress. So I am gonna scroll along here so you can see a lot of the different profiles from different countries are listed here. So we are looking for the UK one. So we've got one here. So you can see that number is actually 141, the key number. And we can scroll down quite a bit because the South African Steel Library comes in quite at the bottom. So just bear with me here. We're gonna actually scroll down quite a bit. Hopefully I don't miss it because this does happen sometimes, right? We keep scrolling and scrolling and then sometimes we miss actually what we're looking for. Here we are, we've got all of the SA and you can see we've got the universal beam. I am looking for the I section or IPE. Like you can see, there's the key numbers on the left. So here we are, we've got square, we've got all of these things and we come to the end. Let me just try and see what that number was again. So it's nice to do this I'm getting tongue tied today. Apply a method so you can actually use it, right? So I'm just gonna find that number again that I saw for that UK universal section. So just bear with me. The best way to tackle this is to do it on a project by project basis, because if you can sit and you're disciplined, you can do it, right? But here we are. So we've got universal columns, we've got universal beams. I'm going to change that number to like 600. So you can see I'm actually increasing it quite high. I'm just using a very high number that's currently not there. So we'll do it for the beams. We'll do it for the columns. Let's see what else we are actually looking for, if it will suffice. So let me see if we can actually apply it to anything else. Universal beams. So anything that has BSEN to it, that is the UK standard. So I'm just going to label a few here just to give you an idea what we're doing. So I make that maybe 603. Let's see what else we want to do. I think that should be enough, right? So let's just close this. Now you see we've pushed that at the bottom of the table. Now when we're going to import a structure from Revit, you will see that dialog box that you guys normally see where you have to map each one manually. It will not pop up. So just hang tight a little bit. So let's look at importing from Revit Advance Steel. So I've got a portal structure that I've done. Let's switch to 3D view. Here we are. We've even got, you can do connections in Revit. From preference, I would love to do it or like to do it in Advanced Steel. It's much more quick. We've got the concrete that we've specified for the plinths. We've got the IPE sections, all South African steel. And what we're going to do is going to go to the Add-ins tab, go to the Advanced Steel extension. If you don't see this, go to your Autodesk account and install it. It is free. So we're going to export this to an SMLX file. Okay, so I'm going to drop it on my desktop, and here we are. So I'm going to switch now to Advanced Steel. I'm going to open up a new drawing. And here we are. I'm going to go and import this, and it's going to load. You can see that dialog box did not pop up at all. All right. So if you've used this, you can definitely see that it works 100%. I'm going to just zoom extends quite quickly. And here we are. All right. We've got the wireframe on, so that's why the boxes look on that. I'm going to switch to the conceptual view. And here we are. Everything came through. You didn't have to go manually select each section and change it and so on. So it's going to save you a ton of time. I've done quite a few projects and I've seen a lot of users that have asked me this, and I hope this helps. So please give it a shot. I see you all on this webinar, so please give it a shot. I want to hear from you on LinkedIn or email or whatever, to please go ahead and tell me if it worked for you or not. And I'm fairly certain it worked because I've tested it myself, as you can see. All right, so you can see you didn't get that dialog box to go and define each I section for what you wanted to represent in Advanced Steel. It read the South African sections automatically. Right, this is also a big one, being the synchronization of the model between Advanced Steel and Revit. So if you can import your Revit model, we've done it successfully in Advanced Steel. If I add connections now, which you're going to see in a bit, how do I reflect that in Revit so that the person that's maybe doing the Revit model sees that the corrections have now been added? Let's have a look. So here is our model. Okay. You can see I've got my plant. We're going to go to the connection vault and we're going to add some base plates. So I'm going to do this fairly quickly. If you want to see step by step, go and have a look at my portal frame webinar that I've done in the past. This is done very easily. I'm not going to add 4 bolts and so on like the previous webinar. I'm just going to make the base plate look a bit of a decent size, but you can see how quick I've actually put in my connection. With a few clicks, that looks a bit decent. I can live with that for this demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to just add it now to the rest of this. So I can use the multiple joint copy if I want to, but since it's a small structure, I'm just going to chop it on for each of them. So I'm going to select the connection, right? So the dialog box, and I'm going to go and drop it now on the remainder of these. Now, the reason why I'm doing it like this is because I'm attaching it to a plinth. If I didn't want to do that, I could definitely automate the process and use the multiple joint copy. Okay, so you can see it's going to be all strapped on or bolted onto the actual plinth. Okay, I think I've just got 2 more. So let's just get that out of the way very quickly. All right, let's click on there, and we are done. Okay, so we've got some connections. In fact, we've got all of the connections done and dusted for the base plate in Advanced Steel. This was from the model that we had imported from Revit itself. Okay. All right, so this could be like parking stands you would see at an office park. So I'm going to go to the export tab. I'm going to override the original SMLX file. Make sure that that file is at a common location that you both can access. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to use this workflow. I'm going to say yes. All right, so once we do save it, I'm going to switch into Revit. I will go to my add-ins tab. I will go to Advance Steel and I will hit synchronize. Now, once I hit synchronize, I will be able to load that SMLX file. There we go. Hit open and you will see it gives you the status of what you want to update. Okay, so I'm going to click all. So I want to update all of them. I can generate a report also. I'm just going to apply the IPEs again, just quickly. Okay, and I'm going to hit apply all actions. Now, once I've done that, you should see I can generate a report that will give me, let me save it to the desktop to show you how it looks. It'll give you a audit trail basically of what has changed in the model, what has been added. So you can see currently you've accepted the statuses, nothing has changed to that, but what has been added is under others, which has all of the sections or the bolted connections that you have added. So it's a nice way for project management just to see what has been added under others, so you can keep a track of this. It also has a timestamp that you can actually use. All right, so once I've imported it, this is how it looks. You can see the hooks come into play. It wasn't there before. The reason why it's in that 2D wireframe is to show you that there has been a change. If I go and click on it, it will then revert back to the actual rendered view or shaded view that we are currently using. So as I click on them, sometimes it might go off. You might need to go click on them, as you can see here. That could be sometimes caused by a graphics issue, but it's not a train smash at all. But as you can see, everything came through as we had designed. Okay, so that is Advance Steel and Revit. Now the same methodology is going to be applied when you're going to collaborate between Advance Steel, Revit, and Plant 3D. So I didn't get my hands on a plant model because I had been very busy with AU this year, or in this week rather, month. It has been a long journey, but it was really exciting. But I'm going to tell you what you need to do. So Advance Steel is at the center of the actual collaboration. Now, if you wanted to talk with Plant 3D, so let's say you've done a structure in Plant 3D, or you've even done a plant, you can actually link that in to Advance Steel in two ways. The first way is the way that I've showed you right now, because Plant 3D, AutoCAD Plant 3D, has an export to SMLX function. It's an Advanced Steel extension. If you don't have it in your Plant 3D, please go and download it from your Autodesk account. The second way that is also pretty good is by adding your Advanced Steel model in the location of the project file that you would need to set up in Plant 3D. So Plant 3D, when you're creating a project, I'm not a Plant 3D specialist, but I do know more or less how it works. You had to create a project, set a project file path. Once you've done that, you can create subfolders. So for example, I would create a folder for Advanced Steel or steel structure, and I would drop in my Advanced Steel model in that folder. So once the person that is doing the Advanced Steel detailing saves their drawing, it gets updated in that folder, and I can then load it directly into my Plant 3D model. So everyone is kept on the same page. So again, you can go SMLX route, which a lot of users find easier. However, the second one is also pretty much very easy. Then the second part is, of course, between Revit and Advanced Steel, which you've seen right now. So if you had to collaborate between these three, I would say take your Plant 3D, link it to Advanced Steel, export an SMLX that includes the plant model in Advanced Steel. And then if you want to overlay it into your Revit model, import that SMLX into Revit, and you should be good to go. Right? A good practice, I would say, is to create one SMLX for the steel structure in Advanced Steel separately, and create one for the plant one also. However, if you are exporting it combined, that is no problem as long as you coordinate it correctly. Again, both parties or all designers involved between plant, structural, and probably architectural, if they want to overlay your design in Revit, you all need to make sure that that SMLX file is at a location that you both can access. And then, of course, there is BIM 360 Design, which again, you can save the SMLX on there and you can collaborate, which makes it amazing. So you can work throughout the world like that. And it has integrations with Plant 3D and Revit for collaboration. You could also save your Advanced Steel model on BIM 360 Design if you desire that, because it does support AutoCAD, because the DWG format is widely accepted. So this is how you would do it in the Plant 3D interface. So if you're doing plant, structure, and also maybe a Revit model, you can mix them all together and apply them. So plant users, I hope this makes a lot of sense to you. Advanced Steel and Revit, this shouldn't be like new to you. You should be aware of this. But if you don't, there is a good map that you could actually follow. So give it a shot. And again, hit me up. Let me know if it works or not. I've tested it with my colleague Daniel. It does definitely work. He is in the plant space. So let me know how it goes on your side. And that is it. Let's just conclude quickly and just go through. Again, today was very technical, not model technical, if I could get it that way. It was more on the process behind how you would get these things. Again, you can access the South African library in Revit by simply loading the family from your file path. That file path is in your, it should be set up by default. Alternatively, just check the Autodesk Knowledge Network. It will give you the full rundown on how to access that and load it. If you don't have it installed or you don't have a South African Steel library, which will be pretty weird, but you can also download that from the Autodesk Knowledge Network by simply typing in Google South African Steel sections Revit download. You'll get the first link, click it, download it, install it, you're good to go. Then if you want to set a default section in Advanced Steel, remember you can go and change the initial one that's by default set to the HEA section, or you can go to the database, go to defaults and set your steel sections to SA, and you don't have to do that. It'll save you a lot of time. Then you would need to auto map if you want to save time so that you don't get the pop-up to manually map sections coming in from Revit to Advanced Steel. So you can do that by simply bumping up the UK sections to a number that's high. So I use 600. You're more than welcome to use that as well. It will definitely work. Then you saw we did a design in Revit with some connections and we exported it to Advanced Steel. Once we imported that in, it did not ask us to manually map the sections, and we were pretty successful there. We added some base plates, updated the SMLX file, and everything loaded in perfectly. So it's a nice way to work. I mean, we normally use Xrefs, but I find this quite a much more liver way to work, meaning that it does not come in as a block. Okay, so it's much more user-friendly, much more flexible. If you click on the sections, you'll get the properties, you can manipulate it and so on. And then that allows you to synchronize successfully between Advanced Steel and Revit. And then I've given you the workflow that you've seen that applies more or less pretty much the same between Advanced Steel and Revit for Advanced Steel and Plant 3D. And then of course, if you've got BIM 360 design, you can throw that into the mix, which works brilliantly. And you can also use that to do your plant stuff in Revit, because the PNID now links in via BIM 360 design. So that's it. I mean, I've just got a few more slides that I want to show you guys that you really want to stick around for. I should have actually mentioned it in the beginning. But if you want to reach us on Baker Baynes, you can go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube being the main one for all of the webinars. Again, if a buddy missed this that you think that could actually benefit from it, you could tag them in the comments. I did a post today. They could actually go watch the recording. Also, if you're short on time, register anyway, because once the webinar has been uploaded, you can actually go and check it out because we'll send you a link to the recording. Okay, so again, just simply Google us, you will find us. A big shout out to everyone that joined me for Autodesk University this year. The feedback was amazing. So I thank you for all of the support, the well wishes, the kind remarks, all of those things. It was a good privilege to represent South Africa and the African continent. It is still live, so you can pretty much still go and check out my session. Those are snapshots from what I've done. And not only mine, there are a ton of brilliant sessions, irrespective of which industry you are. They are all covered and they are free. So please register. I think the recordings are going to be still available 2 months after the conference comes to a close this week. So please register. It's a free login. It's like you're creating a Gmail login basically, and you can learn from professionals, customers that have used the software in mind-blowing ways. Just a snippet for those that haven't seen my session, this created quite a stir among my networks, the VR part. So I actually created a model and I linked it to my phone, which can then be put into a VR headset by simply scanning a QR code, and this was the result. So if you join my session, that QR code is readily available. So you can actually go and have a look at the scan it on your own phone, and you can actually play around with it. So a lot of people appreciated this. They did not know you could actually do this in a session, and the comments were just phenomenal. Okay, so please go have a look at it if you haven't. It's widely available. You can just search my name, or you can search scan to BIM. It will definitely pop up. All right, and then of course, if you want to connect with me directly, this is my credentials. All right, like I said, I'm a BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure and mining here. If you've got a great topic that you want me to cover in the future, you can drop me a message on LinkedIn as well as on my company email, which is shoaib@bakerbaynes.com. Anything civil infrastructure design, I'm your guy, right? You can actually drop it to me. If I don't know what it is, I will find people that will actually collaborate, put our heads together and get it done. However, these are the products that if you want to be product specific, I cover like my core products: Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Recap, Vehicle Tracking, AutoCAD, BIM 360 Docs, Design and Build, also Map 3D, right, for the GIS users. Secondary focus is more on vertical construction. So like you see in here, Advanced Steel, Revit Structure, Robots, and Navisworks. Other focuses in technologies, laser scanning, big part. I've been busy with that a lot this year. VR, which I've delved into this year, which is pretty cool. Leica BLK360, TopCon scanning with the GLS 2000, as well as Clear Edge 3D Edgewise, which is a game changer in the scan to BIM workflow. And then, of course, the webinar recordings are available on our Baker Baynes YouTube channel. So that's it, everyone. I've got the Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, we can spare a few minutes for that. Just give me a second. I will actually look through the chat box and see if there's anything. If you have any comments about today's webinar, you can jot them down there as well. I will give it a few seconds and see what's going on. Okay, I see a comment that says that the mapping looks a bit complicated. It is a little bit to wrap your head around, but if you follow my video here, that's going to be uploaded soon, you should be fine. Remember, all you're going to do is update the key number for the UK section. So anything that says BS, BS standing for British Standards, you're going to pop that key number to 600. Okay, so 600, 601, and so on, which for the sections you would do. I know some users will go in, they will do it for all of the BS standards so that they know it's done. And if you get a custom section that pops in as you're doing a project, you will then go and fix it on the database. And that will actually help with your mapping. Okay, so I can't really help you much more than that, but if you do get stuck, you can give me a call. We have chatted in the past, so please, you can drop me a mail and we can have a look at it. Okay, the next one, again, there's another one regarding Advanced Steel. How effective is the drawing production in Advanced Steel for, I'm trying to get this word, I think you spelled it wrong, but for steel detailing, that's what I think you're referring to. It is amazing, right? So why we need it is in Revit, we don't have a dedicated steel tool. I mean, you can definitely do the connections, you can do the views, you can bring your sheet production. But if you're going more into the fabrication part of it, that's where Advanced Steel comes into play, because they have a lot of general arrangement tools, elevation tools, and so on that you can actually generate automatically in Advanced Steel and get your production done and dusted. Okay, so I would definitely recommend that. Give it a shot, check out my videos, or even go to the Advanced Steel YouTube channel. It'll show you how easy it actually is, and let me know if you come right. Okay, there's another one. Can custom profiles be modeled in Advanced Steel? Yes, they are. It's a little bit of a process though, but you can definitely do a weird section, if I could call it that, or something that's not cut according to your catalog. You might have something that falls out of the box, something that we engineers actually try and avoid, but it does happen. Yes, you can definitely do that, and it works. Maybe I would do it in the future, maybe next year, but we will have a look and see what's going on. Okay, we got a comment here. Thank you for a great webinar, going to make things a lot easier. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. That was the process, or the thought process behind this webinar, is making your life easier for the mapping part of things. So really chuffed to hear that. Let me just scroll to see if I have not missed any other questions. Okay, I think that is it. I have covered it. If anything else pops into your mind later on, feel free to fire away. You've got my email, you've got my contacts. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me for this session. Please go check out my AU presentation as well as make the most of AU this year. There's always a ton of stuff that you can learn. Have a great Friday, everyone, and I will catch you for part 5, which is going to be very, very exciting. I will drop some hints along the way, but have a great weekend and see you all soon.